Hey everybody, Mike Jeffers, Chicago Music Revealed, and we are backstage here at the Chicago Blues Fest 2026, and I am sitting here with the Executive Director of the Chicago Blues Revival, Diamond Dixon. Congratulations on the Executive Directorship.
Thank you.
But I know what that takes to be an Executive Director, so when people say congratulations to you, I just think about all the work you're actually having to do outside of just doing an interview with me. So good luck and
Thank
congratulations.
You. I'll take them both. It can be congratulations though, because it's a very cool job, right? The work has to be done. I'm just glad to be in a community where I can do the work.
100%. So reading up on the Chicago Blues Revival, and we have mutual friends that have told me about this over the years. This is the first time I'm able to talk to you actually. It's an interesting organization and one that I think really has to happen. You know, there's a lot of blues societies that do great work and support and do different things. I love the fact that the three things, if you look at their website, chicagobluesrevival.org, the 3 points right on the homepage that I love, right front and center right there, so you know exactly what this organization is all about, is organizing events, supporting musicians, and connecting to the next generation of musicians. So let's talk a little bit, organizing events. You're not just doing festivals, you're actually creating things in different venues and making things happen outside all year round, right?
Absolutely. So outside of us participating in the festival, we also do have a partnership with Chicago Park District where we participate in their night out in the parks. And so this year, gratefully, thank you Chicago Park District, we got 4 nights this year. We'll be in different parks around the city, but we also independently plan our own community events as well. We also participate with Kenwood Oakwood Community Organization with their Silver Fox pop-up. Think of it as a senior citizen day party.
Oh, okay,
so we provide the music for the senior citizens every month, and throughout that couple hours that we're with them, there are other things happening, right? Yoga or harmonica workshops, something like that. We do try to prioritize getting young bands and young musicians for those because we do care so much about that intergenerational connection that blues brings to the community.
You know, that's the one thing, and Chicago has a lot of this from the jazz side, and now you doing it with the blues. I'm sure there's other blues organizations that do a few things like that, but I love the fact that you connect with the seniors because, first of all, the seniors are very enthusiastic.
Absolutely.
They love that stuff. But it's also a way to get musicians working and out in the public. And, especially with the younger generation, the more they can get in front of people and have guidance on this is how you set things up, this is how you perform, this is what you need to do. Read the room because you have seniors here. Let's not go crazy on certain things. And that's all a learning experience for them too, right?
Absolutely. And the other thing is too, we really do try to make sure that not only are young musicians a part of it, but that we let folks know this is not just your grandfather's music anymore, right? Like there is a pipeline of young musicians who want to participate in the community in this way. And if there's any way for us to continue to sustain and support them, that's what we're trying to do.
So what other events what other events are you doing specifically? You're doing that with the Park District. Do you have anything big coming up or anything we should be talking about to kind of preview maybe in the fall or anywhere happening that we can talk about?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So one of our bigger events, we always do more of our fundraising events and kind of like bigger independent concerts towards the end of the year. So more to come on those. But essentially we treat those night out in the park opportunities as kind of our bigger events, right? Because it does give us the opportunity to go into the communities where we may not have as much exposure and really show them what the organization is about. Yeah. So we're still planning a couple things. One thing that I do want to talk about here is that outside of community events that include live entertainment, we are starting to build out more events that speak to, maybe not so much entertainment, but more the business side for some of our musician partners. So working on partnerships with other organizations that would be able to provide some resources and opportunities for musicians to learn about, LLC and how to create their own LLC, learning about their BMI and ASCAP and what their options there, because we want to make sure that we are supporting the community as a whole and not just with entertainment, but how to have a sustained livelihood in this genre.
You're also Willie Dixon's granddaughter, right? And you just brought up BMI and ASCAP, and I'm sure when he was coming up, he didn't know much about BMI and ASCAP until he wrote those famous songs, and all of a sudden people were like, hey, you probably should get this published. Or maybe he even lost some money probably over the years too, You think back all those older musicians that led the way, and a lot of that music was just kind of like taken by record companies or different things like that. So I went to school for music and I learned how to play.
Okay.
Where
did you go to school?
University of North Texas.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm nosy.
One of the top jazz schools in the world.
It
so
is.
There's that. But they didn't teach me anything about business. Like zero about business. No offense, but they taught me nothing. So I had to learn all this on my own. So to actually have an organization talking to the musicians, and especially in the blues and jazz world, where I came from originally, there's not any discussion about that. They're more worried about learning how to play, which is absolutely important, but you do need to know about business.
Absolutely. And the one thing is too, you made that note about my grandfather and all of those older musicians, but even the musicians of today, let's talk about, just the local musicians in the community. Over the last 20 years that I've been participating in the community, you have these musicians where they just want to play music. They don't want to have to think about the rest of those things. And unfortunately, they don't get to just do because of that, right? And so having some place that has just an alignment of resources that people can reach out to say, hey, what should I be doing? What can I do? What are my options? I think when we talk about supporting the blues community in a holistic way, we absolutely have to have the conversation about direct musician advocacy.
That's such an important thing, and I love the fact that your organization is doing that, because it just, to your point, yeah, sure, if I'm a musician, I just want to play. That sounds like a great time. When I'm sitting at the end of the year, although I don't, now I sit all the time and do my taxes because I have different businesses, but when I was first going through and I had my shoebox full of receipts and things, and luckily I got a good accountant right when I got back and I was playing a lot. One of my buddies was a business person and said, you got to get an accountant, because anything going in your bank account, you better, account for, otherwise you're going to be in trouble. So thank God they did that. But I've heard stories over the years from so many musicians that just didn't know, and the tax man always shows up.
Yeah, absolutely. And even when it comes to tax resources and things like that, historically in Illinois has done a decent job when it comes to gig workers specifically, but we don't really take into consideration that gig workers are also musicians. And so what can we be doing as a community to make sure to support them? When a musician passes away, they shouldn't have to do, some type of passing the hat or, some type of online fundraising. They should be able to participate in the infrastructure that builds that, money in the background, having resources to just go to get a checkup if you need to, things like that. And so I'm glad that we are able to help musicians be a part of that general conversation and that alignment with the fact that they are gig workers and deserve that as well.
So ChicagoBluesRevival.org is the website. So with the organization started in 2018, I think I read, right? Yeah. And how long have you been the executive director?
That's a great question. I have a hard time counting the numbers, but what I will tell you is that, so March of 2024, so it's 2 years
so
plus.
2024.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So you came out, but you were sort of connected with them leading up to that, where you came
Yep,
on?
So my really, really good friend, Jen Littleton, brought me to the organization as a volunteer.
So it's her fault.
It is. But I have to do my plug for Jen because she's a great advocate of the community in general. So I volunteered first, met Jeff Penzino, who's the founder of the organization. I jokingly told him when our first meeting that we were going to be besties, and he laughed. And so now here we are a couple of years later, and not only are we besties, but he has given me the opportunity to support the organization in this way. He basically handed me a Rolls Royce, and I'm trying not to crash it, right? But essentially worked my way through volunteerism, was able to join the board and worked on some special projects, and then got the ask to be executive director.
So the work that you're doing, as it's growing, how many musicians, how many events? I mean, it's obviously grown into something bigger and bigger and bigger. Where are we at now in 2026? As far as how many musicians are you reaching? 200, 300, 400, things like that.
Yeah, so the word that we use for those type of numbers is impact.
There you go. Impact.
There we go.
See?
Impact. So back in 2018, Jeff actually started this out with just having a couple musicians come to play block club parties in Beverly and things like that. Now we've probably done over 100 concerts, I would say. say maybe 200 to 300 musicians when we talk about direct advocacy or even just hiring musicians. Our education program, which you will see on our website, we have renamed it the Blues Institute. We have a Jazz Institute here, and obviously we're trying to grow into something formidable like that. But the Blues Institute is in the first, 2 years of its stage. But we have done about 4 schools already. Our last school that we participated with our education program was DePriest on the west side.
Okay.
We're in talks to hopefully get into Mollison. It's just very preliminary. And then other opportunities for our education program to grow. Obviously, when we get funds from our fundraising and things like that, we are then able to do the work. So essentially, we are trying to make sure that we have the funds to make our education program more robust, so we're in multiple schools at a time.
Do you think, because that's the one thing that I've seen, we've been publishing the program book here for the city since 2023 for the Blues Fest, and we used to be on site with a booth and doing all the merch and all that stuff.
Yes.
And that's a lot of bandwidth, so that's why I'm doing interviews right now.
I understand.
Not that I don't love hanging out for 4 days in the hot sun, but that's the one thing that I noticed that I would see the same people year after year after year, and it wasn't getting any younger. And then at the Blues Fest and at the Jazz Fest and at many of the other festivals, because you've got the hardcore fans, and then you have a lot of that older generation. I suppose I'm leading into the older generation these days too, 40 plus, that we're used to going out and seeing music. But now you have the under 40 that's used to sitting in their room watching YouTube, hanging out with their friends watching YouTube or watching live concerts on video, or going to the United Centers for some massive thing. But they're not used to attending blues clubs, jazz clubs, local music, things like that.
Absolutely.
That advocacy is so important, isn't it? Because you've got to connect them with the music young.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also give them opportunities to participate in the community in that way. And that's why I am super excited. This is the second year that I have been able to sit on the Blues Fest committee, partnering with Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events here for the city, and have participated directly in assisting programming the Next Generation Blues stage here. This gives kids the opportunity to say and see that there is a viable path here as a musician here in Chicago playing this type of music, but also gives them exposure to, performing and things like that and what that lift looks like. Also, because this is, Millennium Park is a public park essentially, people can bring their kids, and even to our community events, we do prioritize those events being all ages, because we do want people to come into the community, understand that it's safe, they can bring their kids, and they can also bring their grandparents, and everybody can be enjoying the same thing at the same time.
That's the one thing, I'm lucky enough to be the general manager now of the Gateway Theater at Copernicus Center. So we have a lounge that holds 250 and an 1,800 seat theater. And because it's a theater, it's all ages. So when we have shows in the lounge where if you went to, Kingston Mines or something, you couldn't get anybody in under 21, people can come from college, people can come from high school, and that's really starting to open up. And I think we need more of that kind of thing. And that's what you're providing too, with this kind of open, to the public stuff and community areas and with the park district and all that.
Absolutely.
And so last question to wrap this up, because this has been great. You and I'm trying not to ask certain questions because I know
I was going to say, if you feel like it, we can just sit
go down like an educational. We could talk about business for like another 2 hours, but
for real, maybe we should make this like a 3-part series.
There you go.
I love that for me and us. It'll be fun.
But the big question is, how can people help? Like, what's your biggest need? How can they join the organization as a volunteer? How can they donate? What do you need from the community watching this to bring them into your organization?
All of the things, no. Outside of being able to donate, via our website, and also being able to sign up to volunteer on our website, it is chicagobluesrevival.org. We also have a membership program, so think of PBS, where you see, the members only things. Yep. Folks can sign up there, but also exposure. We are on social media. You can find us on Instagram and on Facebook at Chicago Blues Revival. Any of our posts, if you're able to share, if you're able to come and just hang out, all of those things are beneficial to our organization and the work that we're doing. Very grateful to be in this spot, and very grateful for an organization like Chicago Blues Revival. You mentioned earlier there are a lot of organizations here that all do great work. Chicago Blues Revival is an organization that speaks to the entire development and support of the community in any way that we possibly can.
And that's the one thing, and I'm glad you brought that up too. A lot of people think that one organization is trying to compete against the other organization. Everybody's trying to help. You know, that's what I used to talk about with the blues world or the jazz world when I'm talking to people. It's like 3 to 5% are like the true hardcore fans. So there's like 95% of the population in Chicago are casual music fans who, when they hear something, see something, they're like, oh, that's really cool. I don't know what it is. I don't know who that is, but that's really cool.
Yeah.
And they want to learn more about it. I don't think a lot of people segment it out to blues, to jazz. They just like what they hear. And it's so important to have all these different nonprofit organizations working, maybe not completely together as one, but they're working in different areas because not everybody can cover so much ground, right?
Yeah, that's true. And I think sometimes, right, depending on the reason behind an organization, right, sometimes we have those special interest organizations, things like that. You know, everybody kind of has their own lane. But one thing that I truly believe in is that there is strength in numbers. We are a collective of small parts to make a bigger part and to have a bigger goal. And I think that as long as we all remember that, we're all working towards that same support of this community. It's not just about the musicians, it's about the people behind the scenes like you. It's about the folks who participate in the community. It's about the people who live in these communities where blues, you know, was built, the Chicago blues sound on the south and west sides. And so the collective is greater than, you know, kind of those granular situations. And I think that if we all keep that top of mind, we can definitely progress a little bit faster.
100%. Well, of course, ChicagoBluesRevival.org. Diamond Dixon, the executive director, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I appreciate you being here. And of course, I love the fact that everybody's watching, and I appreciate everyone for sticking around. And of course, all the information is at ChicagoJazz.com, bluesinchicago.com. And until next time, hopefully I will see somebody out on the scene.